This is the last quilt my grandmother made, and today we're going to finish it for her. Well, hopefully we'll be able to finish it all today because December is a crazy busy month, and this quilt has become a literal pain in my ass this week because I accidentally sat on it while I was cleaning some furniture, and one of these pins poked me where the sun don't shine. So it's time. It is time to finish Grandma's last quilt. This quilt came to me with the top finished and already pinned together into a quilt sandwich. And just like he's doing right now, Cujo immediately jumped on top of it and slept on it for 3 hours. Because I guess he could tell Grandma liked cats. Hey, dude. What are you doing? Oh, what a good boy. You're such a good cat. The back looks like it was pieced from the remnants of a sheet that was probably used to back a different quilt. This polyester quilt batting is perfect because it's the only kind of quilt batting I am not allergic to. And this charming little quilt top is technically not sewn together very well because Grandma's eyesight got really bad in her old age, and it really negatively affected her ability to sew and make quilts. And about 10 years ago, she almost gave up on quilting entirely because of it, but she got into doing charity quilts with this quilt guild at her church, and I believe this was probably going to be a charity quilt, but it's mine now because I'm gonna finish it for Grandma. And I guess it's Cujo's too. Get your mouth off these pins, you little monster. Don't you put your mouth on that. You can stay in here if you don't put your mouth on the pins. Look at you. I'm gonna get you. Rah! Rah! I'm thinking red might be a fun accent because there's all this red in the patches and the red in the sombreros, and I'm thinking maybe just go all the way around, do just like a meandering freehand stitch for the quilting, and just really tie everything together with this accent red color, but also maybe it would cover up and hide some of the bad stitching and bad piecing. So I swapped out my presser foot with an even feed or walking foot and threaded the red thread through my sewing machine. And I already have a heavy duty needle in here because I hemmed up 4 pairs of jeans last week, but I would have replaced this with a heavy duty needle if I had a regular one in here. And this will actually be the first time I'm using this sewing machine to quilt a quilt. I've actually never used a sewing machine to quilt a quilt before because the first one I made I hand quilted, and the second one I made I just tied. So I am a little nervous to see if this works out well and if this machine can even deal with quilting a quilt because it does have such a weak motor, and it really struggled with sewing those jeans. I actually had to hand crank it over the inseam on the hem because it just wasn't strong enough to go through that. So let's hope that this actually works and quilts. I started my first straight line of quilting, and I ran into a little bit of trouble with this one. I kind of lost my straight line in the middle here. The quilt got bunched up a bit and got caught and just kind of moved around a bit, but I think this will work if I just keep going, and it doesn't have to be perfect anyway because the rest of the quilt's not perfect. I pivoted at a random angle and ran another line of straight quilting across the quilt. I think I tried to push too much quilt through the machine on that pass. That one's really crooked and curved. I kept quilting until I thought my quilt was quilted densely enough. How do you think that came out, Cujo, huh? You like it? Me too. Oh, Oh, you are adorable. You adorable, Cujo. Yeah. You the cuteness. Hey, I love you. You're a good boy. I think this came out as good as my first time quilting on a sewing machine would come out. And there are a few spots where the quilt got wrinkled while I was quilting it. And I fixed the one over here because it was gonna get in the way of folding the back over to the front to bind it. But I think I'm gonna leave the rest of them because they're gonna add some character to this quilt. I wanted to quilt it about as densely as I quilted my sunflower quilt because they are a similar size. And if the size is any indication on how we're going to use the quilt, then Grandma's quilt needs to be able to hold up to the washer and dryer. So I think what I quilted today will work for that purpose. I trimmed the batting layer all the way around the quilt and trimmed the backing just about 1.5 inches wider. And I turned the backing of my quilt to the front for binding. And I had some trouble metering these corners, so all 4 of them look different than each other. I sewed the binding down with a nice long straight stitch. That really didn't go according to plan. I had a lot of trouble on this corner and my thread broke like 4 or 5 times while I was sewing this binding on. But as they say, done is better than perfect, and this quilt is done. And I don't think Grandma would care too much how perfect it is. I think she'd care more that I finished it for her. I definitely didn't cover up the mistakes my grandma made. I kind of just added to them. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I think this quilt looks like one person made the entire thing, and to me that looks perfect. Trying to quilt this on my machine was a little difficult. My machine is really light, so it kept moving around and shifting, and I think that's where a lot of the quilting mistakes came from. And I think I could probably get better at that if I practiced it more. But I really like the way this just zigzaggy pattern came out in the quilting. I think it's really fun and unique for this quilt. And the red thread was definitely a good idea. I think it really helps bring out the accented red in the quilt, and it looks really cool on the back. And I really enjoyed finishing this quilt for my grandma. You know, she was always so busy, always doing stuff, always helping people. And the one thing that we really bonded over was sewing. And when I started quilting, she was really excited, and we started talking about quilting a lot too. So that's why when my aunt texted me if there was anything of Grandma's I wanted, I said send me over any unfinished quilts she was working on and I will finish them for her. And I'm really glad I got this quilt, and I'm really glad I got to finish it for Grandma. I'm really glad this quilt isn't just rotting in some room somewhere unfinished or getting thrown out, because that really wasn't Grandma's style. She didn't like to leave things unfinished, and I think she would have been glad that I finished this quilt for her too. And I'm really glad I have another quilt for the winter, because it is already starting to snow outside. There are little snowflakes today, and this is going to be a nice warm lap quilt. As always, thank you guys so much for watching my video today. Please hit that like button if you liked watching me finish my grandma's quilt today, and leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions about quilting on a machine, because I'm not that experienced and need some tips on that one. And if you want to see more quilt videos, you are welcome to subscribe to my channel. I have some quilt videos and some good quilting resources and tutorials on my channel as well. Here's to wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and I will see you guys next time.